If you consider yourself a Bond fan and you haven't seen Skyfall yet, believe me when I say this is one you cannot miss in the theaters. All 007 fans have to see this one as soon as possible. If you're one of the people that lost faith in the Bond franchise after Quantum of Solace, go see Skyfall, and even though I like Quantum, I promise you, your faith will be restored in the franchise. Skyfall is awesome in the true definition of the word. Worthy of awe and inspiring awe. Now I have a lot of great things to say about this film, but I do have a few gripes too. This will hopefully be a spoiler-free review, although I may hint at things. The plot is that after a botched assignment in Turkey with James Bond believed killed, the names of several undercover MI6 agents were leaked, and MI6 is now the target of a cyber-terrorist attack, with the head of the agency, M, its main target. Bond comes back from the dead, apparently surviving the bullet he took, to hunt down the man responsible for this attack. Director Sam Mendes has given the 007 franchise the shot in the arm it desperately needed. Everything is on a larger-than-life scale. The cinematography, the stunts, the action, it's all intense and top-notch. Daniel Craig makes his third appearance as Bond and does superior work once again. Judi Dench returns as M, and she too does a great job. Although her character doesn't have a whole lot new to offer, M is definitely tested more physically in this film. After a two-film disappearance, Q makes a triumphant return, this time being played by the quite young Ben Whishaw. I know for Bond fans it's hard to picture anyone other than Desmond Llewellyn as Q, but if you give Whishaw a chance, he does a darn good job. The gadgets aren't quite as spectacular, but it feels real, which I give the film credit for. Naomi Harris plays fellow MI6 operative Eve. At first she may seem like a typical Bond girl, but just wait through the film. Her role will get a whole lot more important very quickly. Ray Fiennes plays Mallory, the chairman of Intelligence and Security Committee. He does good work too, and he holds an important role as well. Javier Bardem plays the film's main villain, Silva. He does magnificent work in this role, definitely making Silva one of the best Bond villains since Renard from The World Is Not Enough. He's that certain kind of creepy like the Joker. That kind of creepy that you know he's flat out insane and he loves every bit of what he's doing. There have been claims that Silva is gay, and it certainly can be interpreted that way, but I think the character is supposed to make you feel uncomfortable, and it definitely works. Now I'm going to start with the few gripes I have with this movie, because I'd like to spend the majority of my time on the praises I have for it. I think my biggest complaint is the fact that Silva isn't given nearly enough screen time. In fact, I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say he comes into the film about halfway through. This disappointed me because he's such a fascinating villain with an interesting story, and he doesn't have enough time to shine. But meanwhile, Gustav Graves from Die Another Day, possibly the worst Bond villain ever, is given almost the whole movie. Also, Berenice Lim Marlowe's character, Severine, is established as a key character. However, call this a spoiler or not, she doesn't have a whole lot to do and is pretty disposable. She's just there for eye candy, and to her credit, she's smoking hot. A problem I have with some Bond movies is that the plot overstays its welcome and the movie just seems to drag. I have this problem with Diamonds Are Forever and The Man with the Golden Gun. This will require further research, but Skyfall might have one of the shortest running times in the Bond franchise. And it feels too short. The finale is exhilarating, but I was kind of sad when I realized the film was wrapping up. I wanted more! This is a minor gripe, but I have to talk about the gun barrel sequence. Since Dr. No up to Die Another Day, the gun barrel sequence has always been at the beginning of every Bond movie. In Casino Royale, they shook it up a bit and had the sequence lead into the opening credits. It was new, and it worked. But for some reason they decided in Quantum of Solace and Skyfall to put the sequence right before the end credits. The gun barrel sequence belongs at the beginning, and they better get this straightened out in the next film. But I digress. Let's get to my praises. This is quite possibly Daniel Craig's best entry in the franchise. It's classy, it's sleek, it's action-packed. Every little detail works more than it doesn't, and the plot is very well written and developed, although I wish it spent more time with the villain. I won't spoil anything, but I will state that the title Skyfall comes from something related to Bond's past. And that's another aspect this movie has to boast. Skyfall is probably the first film to examine Bond's roots a little deeper than the fact that he's an orphan. Although this film isn't quite as violent as Quantum, or even Casino Royale, the action is more Bond-esque. Each action sequence serves more as an appetizer to the thrilling finale, and you'll definitely be gobbling up each appetizer because the action scenes are phenomenal. Someone must have heard my complaint about Quantum's shaky camera action, because you can actually tell what's going on in these sequences, and they're satisfying to say the least. The locations range from Turkey to Shanghai and to Scotland, and each one is beautifully shot and entrancing. Thomas Newman does the score for this film, a worthy replacement for David Arnold, with a big brassy sound worthy of 007. Adele's theme for the opening credits is definitely the best of the Craig movies, and the opening credits themselves are mesmerizing and memorable. The biggest reason why I love Skyfall, though, is because after Casino Royale's reboot of the franchise, the series has finally come full circle and is starting to feel more classic. There was unanimous praise in the theater when Bond unveiled his classic Goldfinger Aston Martin, complete with ejector seat and machine guns. Once again, satisfying as hell. The return of Q also led to the return of Bond's one-line comebacks and humor. Each one-liner was classic, Bond-esque, and very funny. With the exception of maybe one. It even looked like Craig had a hard time saying it. Now I can rant about Skyfall for an hour, but the only way to see how fantastic it is to see it in the theaters. I'll say it once again. If you consider yourself a Bond fan, you have to see this movie as soon as possible. Because I can guarantee you, as sure as James Bond will return, you will not be disappointed. That is my diagnosis.